Wilsons. We're going to jump in and check this one out. We got a bunch more questions. I'm sure Cupcake, you do as well here. But I mean, first impression is wow. This is an incredible vista.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Absolutely stunning stuff. We talked about, you know, Dion, you mentioned like the S shape sort of thing, but it looks like there's some twists and turns here. It's almost like the path overlaps itself as well at some points.
It does. There's a little bit of C shape, and then there's this bridge overpass that's pretty fun to encounter. I think I'm curious to see how this battle plays out once the players get to the overpass.
We'll be starting to...
Yeah, I feel like the two big features on this map, and we'll see it right away, is the first one is right in the under the Coliseum, basically where the OW2 or the bot starts, and that it you know, it kind of like looks sort of simple in basic geometry, but is like the subtlety there is because it's got a slight curve to it the whole time. It's so amazing, and you can see certain of these are blocked off and certain of them are open as far as in between the pillars, and that was actually iterated on quite a bit. I remember opening them up, closing them. In fact, you see the tops are actually open, so you can climb over or fly over them, so we still allow some flanking routes if you're like a Pharah or Genji and you want to get cheeky, but we didn't want to close it off entirely. So that one section was sort of everyone's favorite right away in playtesting, and then just the a massive amount of iteration on it was great.
Right.
So we'll see it here.
That quality of life chains on Winston's bubble, it does not go unnoticed, by the way. The duration of the bubble remaining being shown on the HUD is huge.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love that
it's funny watching.
Sorry, I mean, I just love the curvature actually sort of, it actually reduces line of sight, right? So you cannot now just sit at one end of this sort of track and see the other if you're a sniper. So even that small tweak, you know, has balance implications that I'm sure you've thought about to quite a great degree. I think because me and Cupcake are both support mains, I think something we're definitely going to be wanting to talk about here is that it's not just Zenyatta's HUD that's gotten a change, right? It seems like every sport looks a little bit different when it comes to the HUD and some of those abilities that interact with teammates.
Yeah, which like even the Zen placement of the orbs, it's so much better, like more in the middle rather than having it on this side.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really nice. I've noticed like the little changes with like having Mercy, like it shows when Mercy's healing somebody a lot more clearly, and I like having the icons of who it's on, you know. I like I wish to see more with Ana. Like I would love to see with Ana having it show like who she slept, like on the UI.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
Like that would be so cool.
Especially because, you know, I feel like I have to tell my DPS player that's in the enemy backline, I don't know if you saw that, but I just let the fire out of the air, and they just
I slept someone, yeah.
I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you throw one, you don't know who it hit, like because there's so much going on. You're like, okay, I definitely slept someone, but I'm not sure who it was. That might be important to know.
That's my favorite part. You sleep against you accidentally with a blade, and someone just wakes them up because they have no idea that you sort of slept them, right?
Exactly. Oh no.
And obviously, you as a player get indication if Mercy is healing or damage boosting you, right? Obviously, your screen sort of, on live, your screen sort of takes on like a sort of a very slight non-intrusive glow. But it seems here you've also changed how it's indicated to you that Mercy is sort of damage boosting you. Is that also the case with like a nano boost, for example?
I can't remember if we've actually changed the 1P nano boost effect.
I don't think we have yet.
Gotcha.
But in general, there's like, you know, great big passes going across. I mean, really across the team. I mean, you can see the skin passes, and those emails get sent out all the time. Like, oh, look at these cool, you know, skin changes and, you know, tech we're getting. And then there's also VFX updates. Look at the VFX changes we're making and sound, of course. So it's kind of just awesome being, like, even if I'm not directly, you know, working on that stuff, just sort of seeing that stuff cross my email and the examples being sent out. It's just awesome, like day to day. Seeing all the changes.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure your inbox is sort of swarmed with them. I sort of wonder what the, look, it was mentioned at BlizzCon Online as well that sort of the assault game mode sort of there wouldn't be sort of further maps developed for, right? The focus would no longer sort of be on that. So I'd love to know what the sort of thought process is between sort of the removal of assault, or 2CP as it's fondly known, and the addition of push here.
Right, so that has a long history actually.
Yeah.
That's probably most of the people who really follow the game closely are aware. We've obviously the assault map, or 2CP as it's called. A lot of people had a lot of concerns with it, and we've tried to make a lot of changes to it. In fact, what people might not know is we've gone through multiple phases of like a heavy overhaul of it, but none of them ever really were good enough to go even to experimental card, honestly. We've I always feel bad because one time I had a new designer join, and one of the first things we gave him was like, overhaul 2CP. What do you want to do? And it was like the hardest problem ever. Go ahead and solve it, new guy. It was like, oh, that's kind of rough actually, in retrospect. So you know, we've got went through a lot of changes, and it got to the point where we were like, we'd have to make so many changes to get this where we want it to be. Like, is it even the same mode anymore? And at that point, if we're getting to that degree, why don't we just make a different mode?
Yeah, let's make new.
Why even try to like, you know, change it to that degree? So that's kind of how that ended up coming about, and a lot of it was feedback from the players.
So that's kind of spicy, Jeff. You're trying to say that there's other modes in development. Are you trying to imply that?
I would say that we are constantly experimenting with new modes, but they're experimentation right now.
How crazy!
New York was.
Sorry, Dion, please.
Oh, sorry. New York was. We experimented a lot with New York before landing on the mode that we chose.
I mean, it seems like
and
so many possibilities for that kind of map, right?
Right. Temple of Anubis, when we first showed that at BlizzCon, the shipping version actually changed, you know, to try to fix 2CP even back when the game first came out. So we actually, the version we shared and the version that shipped with the game was pretty different from the choke point standpoint to try to address some of the 2CP challenges. So
we just left that spot in the map. Oh, sorry, Dion, I didn't cut you off.
And that was it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna comment on it because we were there, although they just left it. But the other thing I was mentioning about this map, because I mentioned two things, is that area we just left it's like this like corkscrew basically, and it's super interesting. Yeah, it like goes, you basically flips on itself and goes over itself, and you can see it coming up here. So you go under, in this case you go to the right and then back up and then cross over itself. It is a really interesting point to play. In fact, when we were first playing it, I remember we had our first feedback session where it was like, I don't know if I like this or not. It's either amazing or it's terrible. I can't even tell. Like it's super interesting and very impactful. And so we were like, I think that means we keep going with it, keep playtesting it, and keep iterating. So obviously having a big impact is almost more important if you can get the good stuff of it. So after a lot of iteration, it's definitely persisted, and it's become kind of the most interesting spot to play around, because it's
a lot of drama there.
The flanks, you can flank from on top to drop down below, because you have to go under this pass, and if you just sit in the middle of that pass as Reaper or something like that and just drop down, of course you gotta worry about gonna be jumping up on you or something. There's actually a little wall on the right you can climb up right there, if you're a character that can climb or grapple or something. So it's just like this, when you're going through that, after playtesting this map enough and playing enough, when you're going under that pass, it's the most like
dramatic,
anxiety-inducing spot. It's just like, especially when it's like calm for a while at first, because like, you know, after a fight and you're going, there's no sounds. You're like, okay, what is about to happen here? Where are they going to be coming from? And it's like,
there's a sneaky little alleyway in there too. A tiny, once you're under the bridge, there's an alleyway there. Reaper 76. There's a lot of
so it's like Gibraltar, right? You go through that first or underpass, and you just know it's a little too quiet. You know that someone's going to show up and clap you. I mean, I'm loving this. It looks like, I mean, the verticality difference between sort of playing in this initial sort of bend and then outside on the corkscrews is huge. Like, you'd have to sort of switch comms almost to try and make the most of it. Cupcake, we've seen now a good, decent bit of Rome. I'd love to get some more of your thoughts here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love all the like architecture and everything in it. I was fascinated when I was watching the preview during the BlizzCon line on it, and I would, you know, love to get in there and like just go explore it and look around and like figure out like what the best way to go about this is, because there's a lot to it. It's a little confusing like looking at it from like this perspective, but I'm sure once you get in there and you actually like play it, it makes a lot more sense, you know.
Even at 5v5, yeah, you definitely have the feeling of like franticness or hecticness, you know, sort of around the bot.
Yeah, exactly.
And this seems like a game mode that's catered to like giving these like adrenaline sort of pumping moments of overtime, right?
Oh yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of overtime moments.
What I love though is that these buildings don't just seem for decoration. Like even look up at the top right side, right? Like all these buildings you can go in. There's so many more of these nooks and crannies that you can actually explore. That seems like a way more intensive map design process as well, because you have to think of everything. You cannot leave a stone unturned when you sort of turn this tapestry into, you know, something vibrant like this.